In a world that is benefiting so much from technology advances and AI, we can't forget that we're all in the people business. If you have people at the helm of a business and you have people working within a company, you're in the people business. Every single person on the face of the planet is genetically hardwired for scarcity and fear. That is human. So don't feel bad about that when you're feeling that way. It really literally is just being human.
Today's session is a part of our ongoing efforts to invest in all of you, our precious ITBD community, beyond the day-to-day work. So once again, thank you so much for taking the time to join. As we all head into the weekend, this is a great chance to pause, reflect, and reconnect, not just with each other, but with the bigger picture. So sit back, relax, take a deep breath, and let's make the most of this hour together. Now, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Kelly Knight. Kelly Knight has served as EOS Worldwide's integrator since 2016. She's worked with 11 visionaries to date in her career and credits her father for being the first person to show her how to take an idea and make it real. Prior to joining EOS, Kelly honed her skills as an expert team builder for more than 20 years while leading dynamic organizations in the financial services industry. Hardwired to find talented people and guide them to reaching their full potential, Kelly harmonizes the major functions of EOS while driving accountability and organizational clarity. Her gift is leading with positivity and heart with a passion for uniting teams to achieve the extraordinary. Today, Kelly's focus is sharing EOS with the world and growing the EOS community with the people who are passionate about helping entrepreneurs get everything they want from their businesses and live their ideal lives. Everyone, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker for today. But before we begin the session today and I hand it over to Kelly, Sunny, would you like to share a few words about your strategic coach, Kelly, and about the session for today?
Yes, thanks, Anamika. Yes, I met Callie for the first time in Toronto a couple of years ago. And, there's some people that you meet, they have this aura that is just, full of wisdom, full of kindness, and so generous. And that's Callie to me. We became very close friends in the last few years. She is strong. She is kind, generous, and so much grace, so much grace. And she's always there. She show up to add value to people. She helps everyone and always there to add value to people. And I'm so excited about, having her. This is very near and dear to me, Life by Design. And thank you so much, Callie, for coming and adding value to our ITBD community. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Sunny. And thank you for such a warm welcome. I am thrilled to be here with all of you. I'm thrilled to be talking to an international global organization. And I have heard such beautiful things about your team, Sunny, that you've shared with me. And so I'm so excited to share some of my insights, and hopefully that will help you and your team, both personally and professionally. So a lot of what I'm sharing can be applied to your whole life as a holistic piece of what you can take forward following today. And Sunny, you were so gracious. You're such a warm, caring entrepreneur as I know you, and I can only imagine how much your team benefits from that. In how you care for them too. So, all right. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about something I'm very passionate about, and that is people. And specifically with you, your team, IT by Design, and this session, Life by Design. And our focus today is on relationship. So when I was offered the different wheels, I said, absolutely, I could speak to all of them, but relationship is the one that I'll say I'm the most passionate about. And so specifically today, we'll be talking about dare to build an intentional culture, but you could just as easily replace the word culture with relationship. So dare to build intentional relationships. So, in a world that is benefiting so much from technology advances and AI, we can't forget that we're all in the people business. And so, regardless of industry, if you have people at the helm of a business and you have people working within a company, you're in the people business. You all are in the people business, even or especially as MSPs and being in the technology business, because you're helping people to be more efficient and more capable, and you're helping empower people to thrive and become their best. And I can imagine you translate that as well at home too, with your families or your friends and things like that. Also, regardless of generation. So, Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, guess what? We're all in the people business. And at the center of great culture and businesses are healthy and intentional relationships. So, what I want to share with you today are a few ways to build more intentional relationships personally and professionally. So, if we want to go ahead and put the slides up, we can start taking a look at what this looks like. So today's agenda, once we get there we go, is we're going to be talking about what is intentional culture, and something that's near and dear to me, that's heart-centered leadership, managing human energy. What is that? And then landing with what do we need to build an intentional culture and relationships. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. And at the very end, you're going to have access to a QR code that takes you to a landing page where you can access a lot of materials, some content, and some fun tools that you may want to experiment with after today. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So EOS, as you heard at the intro, it's Entrepreneurial Operating System. We help entrepreneurs get everything that they want from their business using simple tools, simple and practical tools. And one of the components of the 6 key components at EOS is actually about people. So when you go to the landing page, you're going to be seeing a lot of information about people generally, to include what we're talking about today and some other things. So, all right, on to the next slide. And we'll advance one more. So we're going to be talking about intentional culture first. What is that? And so after working with over 29,000 companies here at EOS, 290,000 companies actually running on EOS using the tools, we've discovered that there's 4 culture types that exist within the world. And if we go to the next slide, we'll show how we plot those out. Okay, so we can plot this out. We can actually plot out intentional culture, and you'll see here that there's 4 quadrants. So on the vertical axis, we have a level of intentionality. And so what that means is doing things on purpose with intention. Sunny talks a lot about that. He mentioned it actually at the outset before we got started, is we don't want to do that by happen chance or just by mistake. We want to be very intentional with what we do. And so if there's high intentionality, that's on purpose, and a low intentionality is sort of where we're taking things as they come. And on the horizontal axis is what we are calling healthy. And that's when things are feeling harmonious, in flow, you might have heard before, where you can lose time based upon doing things you just genuinely really love to do. That's a healthy environment or healthy relationship. And that also exhibits a high level of trust. That's where we can feel open and honest and vulnerable and authentically who we are, whether, again, that's at home or whether we're at the office or working with our professional peers. So some cultures are more healthy than others. So what we're striving for is to be at the high end of both intentionality and also healthy in our relationships. So that gets us to the intentional culture quadrant. But here's the thing, before we can get there, we have to talk about what all the other ones are, those other 3. What are those? So let's start with command and control, where we're seeing a high degree of intentionality, but a low case of health. And so it's called command and control. You probably heard this before. This is where we're leading with fear and control more than we are with being open. And this usually starts with 1 or more members of a team. It could be a leadership team. It could be managers. It often does happen to start there. And it's a tone where things are ripe with gossip, turnover. People are scared. It feels pretty toxic. The relationships are more transactional than they are relational, where people are treated as replaceable parts. and not honored for the gifts that they're bringing. At Strategic Coach, we call that unique ability. So when we're working within our teams, we want to be living in the things that we love to do and we're really great at, our God-given talents, some might call it. But in this case, in command and control, it's not happening. So people are treated as interchangeable parts. And so we replace people with new parts without really caring for people as who they are. So we're changing over teams pretty quickly. That's command and control. That is not an ideal state. Now, if we stay with the unhealthy version, so we go down a box, we go to chaotic culture, this is where there's a low degree of intentionality and there's a low degree of health. And that's what we call chaotic culture. Now, this starts with a pocket of good. This is typically a team, an organization where you start with, kind of working with your best friends. You're surrounding yourselves with good people who you like, who can do the job at the time. They have the time and the attention to do it, and it's okay for a while. But one day we wake up and realize that we're working within a team and we don't really like the company or the team that we've become. It's often random hiring, low intention, unhealthy, again, gossiping and politicking in this quadrant as well. And that's what a chaotic culture looks like. Now, if we move over to the right to a high degree of health, but low intentionality, that's a happy accident. And a happy accident is just that. It's a culture that's great, but it happened on accident. It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't with intention. And this is a case of a healthy organization that has low intentionality, starting with, could be, again, an entrepreneur, a team leader, hiring people, maybe from their own network, from college or family members, maybe cousin Fred comes on board. And so we're self-aware that if we start to hire people like that, they could actually ruin the culture or ruin the business that we're trying to lead. So we pull back on hiring, things stay small for a longer period of time, and we ultimately, efficiency and productivity and getting what we want from our plan starts to break down. So it's like building a business on quicksand. It's unproductive. It's pretty miserable. Doesn't feel good to be a part of. So this is where kind of companies come to die. And so a happy accident, again, only can exist for a very short period of time. So that's the other three culture types. But if we move into where we're trying to go, which is that high degree of intentionality, high degree of health, it's a place where people are aligned with the vision and with the core values of the organization. Two things that I know Sonny holds near and dear to his heart, having spent so much time with him, very intentional about where he's going and how he's going to channel all of the energy of his teams worldwide to get there. It's scalable and enduring intentional culture. This is where we have great leaders and great managers and great contributors at all levels of the organization, top to bottom. This is where organizations and team members are living what is called the EOS life. That is doing 5 things: doing what you love, with people you love, making a huge difference, being compensated appropriately, with time left over to pursue other passions. Those 5 things together create what we call the EOS life. And we think that's a pretty ideal life for most people to get what they want for themselves. That can only happen when you're sitting in an intentional culture, day in and day out. This is also where people can grow and thrive and become the next best version of themselves. This is an environment that's ripe for learning, for advancement, for ideation, for creativity, for ingenuity. And all arrows are pointed in the same direction. That's intentional culture. So this is all meant to just anchor you into kind of what we're striving for when we're working together on teams. But it's also a thought process for how we work with those outside, meaning our personal life too. Where are you seeing instances of pockets of command and control, or things being chaotic, or it being more intentional? So it can be absolutely applied outside of our professional life too. And this is kind of fun. This is talking about core values, which again, when we're talking about alignment on teams, it's about having a set of attributes and attitudes that we all want to share top to bottom in an organization. These are words, actions, and behaviors of these attributes that we want to see emulated. So as an example at EOS, we have 5 core values. They are: be humbly confident, grow or die, help first, do the right thing, and do what you say. So at my organization, I'm always looking for people to emulate those 5 things and for us to champion and celebrate one another. We do that on a dedicated Slack channel. But this company, which is one of our EOS implementers are business coaches, and they work with organizations like Sunny. Sunny actually works with my business partner, Mark O'Donnell, to meet and talk about infusing EOS into your business. But this particular example comes from another EOS implementer. Her name is CJ Dubé, and they are in the construction business. And a really clever idea that they had was to celebrate one time per year someone on the team who perfectly exhibited the core values or well exhibited those core values by giving them this special boot buckle award. And you can see that there's some different things on here that are noted. These are their core values. So stands tall, inspires, provides traction. And so this was awarded to someone one time per year. And CJ will recount the story about how one of the award winners was so proud to be able to walk around with his boots to exhibit how he had so well demonstrated the core values for the company. So small things can be done inside organizations to create being united together and creating an intentional culture, all centered around core values that we all exhibit together. So that was one little example. And, what I'll say is that we live in a world that is very let me get to this quote first. Life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. And that's a quote by Jim Rohn. And I preface what I'm about to go to because we all can take responsibility within an organization. Every single person on a team can take responsibility for life being better on our own outside of work, but also inside IT by design. And it doesn't really get better, in my opinion, this is my experience, unless we have infused into our work environment a level of love. And so we can advance to the next slide. Now, love I'm not speaking about romantic kind of love or kumbaya, standing around a campfire holding hands. I'm talking about really an abundance perspective around love. And so this is where we're going to talk about heart-centered leadership, and one more slide ahead. And this is where I say we live in a world that is really over-commoditized. It's hyper-competitive. It's fear-based a lot of times. It's natural sometimes for cultures to pick up on that, to pick up on some of the unhealthy ways and scarcity components that exist in our world, but that can also be downright toxic. So it's worth understanding that every single person on the face of the planet is genetically hardwired for scarcity and fear. That is human. So don't feel bad about that when you're feeling that way. It really literally is just being human. So knowing that it's science that tells us that this is true, and lots of research supports this. I'm happy to provide some of that if anybody's interested in it. Mark and I do quite a bit of that sort of research, but acknowledging that we are hardwired for scarcity and fear is sort of a first step in understanding how we can go a different path. So a healthy intentional culture is based upon abundance and love versus scarcity and fear. It's also a healthy, intentional culture that honors the unique gift that each individual is on a team, deserving of honor and respect. So as, again, every member on a team thinking that way is very important. It consciously creates an environment for individuals to grow and thrive and contribute in their own way. So as Dan Sullivan at Strategic Coach calls it, again, it's unique ability or God-given talent. Simply put, an intentional culture is based upon that abundance and love, command and control that we have looked at on that quadrant or matrix is scarcity and fear. So abundance and love and scarcity and fear are in direct contrast to one another. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see kind of a comparison. Well, Kelly, what do you mean when you say abundance and love versus scarcity and fear? What does that look like in life? So here's some examples. Abundance and love is positive versus negative, optimistic versus pessimistic, collaborative versus competitive, long-term thinking versus short-term thinking, proactive versus reactive, contentment versus anxiety and stress, and gratitude versus entitlement, self-worth and confidence versus inadequacy and self-doubt, and generosity versus hoarding. Now, It's also worth noting that there's a spectrum. No one lives entirely in one camp or the other all the time. There's a spectrum to this, and it's more getting clear about where you're rooted today and in what direction you want to go. So on that prior slide, when we could see that spectrum, that set of arrows, it's thinking about where am I? Am I a little bit more grounded towards that love and abundance, or am I a little closer to scarcity and fear? And again, you can be anywhere on that spectrum. It's okay. That's just, again, fully human. Okay, thank you for going back, and we can go forward a couple slides here. So looking at psychology, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, many of you may have learned about that. We're only able to live in abundance and love when we are ready for self-actualization. Our basic needs are being met on the bottom part of that pyramid. And I truly believe, based upon how Sunny leads and what I hear about your team, you are in that 1% of those that can really get this, you yourselves, and also be a light in the world to share this with others because it's contagious. So think about it though, if you don't have enough to eat, you're living paycheck to paycheck, the ability to live in abundance is pretty low. If you're living in scarcity, you have a 0% chance of having, a team or a life that can feel like it's love and abundance. Pretty hard. On the other hand, if you're able to live in abundance, you have a really good chance of having a culture and a set of relationships that are based with love and that are healthy. So again, it's a spectrum. No one lives entirely in one area or another. It's just being aware, being conscious of where you're at, totally human. There's plenty of days I wake up and I'm recognizing I'm living in scarcity and fear, and it just grounds me to getting back on track to who I want to be and how I want to show up. Okay, one more important component, and this is about, if we advance to the next slide, it's something called human energy. And we'll advance one more slide beyond that. So when we think about human energy, if we're on the left side here, where you see all those arrows going in different directions, this is a set of team members who just are not on the same page. They're not aligned with the vision. They're not aligned with core values. They're not aligned with abundance and love, kind of all going in different directions. What we're trying to do on teams and in organizations is get to that right bubble, which is all of those arrows pointing in the same direction. This is, again, where we're clear on where we're going, the vision and how we're going to get there, our core values aligned, we're exhibiting those day in and day out, and we're feeling pretty good. And again, more often than not all the time, living in that abundance and love. Okay, so the goal inside organizations is to get those arrows all aligned in the same direction to accomplish our goals. Okay, so now we're going to bring it all together to the next slide. So there's 3 points to getting to an intentional culture. So how do I do that? Let's just recap where we've landed today. We want to be based on abundance and love. We'll advance one more slide, but based on abundance and love. Our core values are centered around how we live and our decision making. And we have intentional and courageous management and decision making in our relationships. When we think about Life by Design, what you all do here, which is super special, I love this idea at IT by Design, the freedoms of relationship are so key. It's also fundamental, I think, to getting the other 3. So when you think about health, career, and legacy, those are fundamentally based on relationships too, if you really think about it. So to me, I just am so excited about this topic. And I'm excited to see what maybe questions or comments you all might have and what your experiences are too. And again, after we're done with Q&A, I think we're going to go to a slide that will give you that QR code to access all the fun things on a landing page that you may want to explore in the days or weeks to come.
So, all right. So I think let's give some love. We've had an incredible session today. Can we please use the reaction, show some love, maybe a virtual applause to Kelly, please? All of us together.
I'm going to give love back.
Round of applause. A round of applause.
It's a pleasure to be with you all. It really is. And if you do want to put that QR code up, if now is the right time, so everybody can grab that if they should want it, I would love to keep in touch with everybody. Please, if you would go on LinkedIn and connect with me, I'd love to get to know who is on today's call. Kelly P. Knight is on the LinkedIn. And then this QR code will take you to a landing page where you'll see there's some cool tools on there. You can download a free chapter of People. That's the book that I wrote with my business partner, Mark O'Donnell and CJ Dubé. There's also an example of video of how you share your core values with your team members. It's an example that my business partner, Mark O'Donnell, recorded. It's pretty cool. It's like the platinum standard for how you talk about core values with your team. So I think you all would love that. And there's some other goodies on that landing page too. And see all of you hopefully again at some point in the future. Thank you for having me.